A good transport system is the heart of a thriving city. In Lagos, the state government recognizes the primacy of a good transport system, and this has over the years led to the formulation of different programs and initiatives aimed at tackling transportation challenges in the state.
In the year 2000, the Lagos state government responded to the transport challenges in the metropolis by defining a sector policy with the overall objective of improving the provision of transport services, particularly for low-income public transport users, and a strategy which revolves around developing appropriate mechanism for managing the public transport sector. Subsequently, Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority (LAMATA) was established by the government with a framework for coordinating and addressing the major transport issues affecting Lagos. Tonight, we'll be taking an in-depth look at the Lagos transport sector. How viable? Good evening. I am Obafemi Craig.
I am Kate Harmony. Join us after the break.
This is the news update on LAMATA FR. Cities in Africa should come up with indigenous transport solution that best tackle transportation challenges. Dr. Dayo Mobiriola, Managing Director, Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority (LAMATA), gave the advice while playing host to an 11-man delegation from the Republic of Senegal on a one-week study tour to LAMATA. Dr. Mobiriola said in solving African cities' transport challenges, city planners must not import wholly transport systems from the advanced countries, saying, however, that does not mean Africans cannot learn from them. He said Africans must come up with solutions that best suits their cities, which are beneficial to the people, and as well as give them the desired results. Speaking on the Lagos experience, Dr. Mobiriola said after several study tours that officials had to brainstorm on what was best for Lagos and came up with strategies to convince the political leaders to adopt the proposed transport system. He counseled the delegates to think beyond the bus rapid transit system and explore other transport modes that will help move the people on us at an affordable fare and in a convenient and secured manner. Leader of the delegation, Mr. Umar Diallo, said the delegation had visited South Africa, but noted that the visit to Lagos was important because solution to Senegal's transport challenges is in Lagos. During the 5-day visit, different resource persons gave presentations on aspects of the transport system that they may take on board in Senegal. Deputy Director of Safeguards, Professor Kayode Taiwo, gave a presentation on the objectives of LAMATA, whilst the Technical Advisor Planning, Dr. Frederick Oladende, spoke on the planning for Lagos. Other presentations were on the overview of the transport development in Lagos by the Director of Public Transport, Engineer Gbenga Dairu, Operations and BR2 Model by the Deputy Director Bus Services, Dr. Desmond Amiegbebo, and Blue Line Rail Project by Deputy Project Manager for the rail project, Ms. Irene Okade. The delegates visited the Mile 12 to CMS Bus Rapid Transit BR2 system, the BR2 extension from Mile 12 to Ikorodu, as well as the Blue Line Rail Project. That was a news update. Join us after the break.
Basically, what LAMATA does is to coordinate public transportation in Lagos State, and we came up with a transport master plan.
Developed together with the World Bank, the objective of this plan is finding long-lasting solutions for the problem of transportation in Lagos. Currently under its first steps of development, the plan has already proven itself a big success, dramatically increasing the connectivity in a city in continuous expansion and enjoying an unparalleled demographic and economic growth.
Our responsibility is to ensure that we provide the necessary infrastructure to meet the growth, to improve the quality of life, to improve the standard of living, and to make Lagos a vibrant and livable city in years to come.
LAMATA. Think transport.
The transport sector is a lucrative business, especially in a city like Lagos, whose population is on the rise. This will be our feature in the following short documentary on the evolution of Lagos' transport system. Sit back and enjoy it.
The first privately owned commercial bus service was established in 1914 by Charlotte Olajumoke Obasa. She was a leading indigenous entrepreneur at the time that pioneered organized bus transport with her Amfani bus service. This was followed by the establishment of J.N. Zappas and Company in 1929. Zappas dominated the Lagos transport scheme until the assets were acquired by Lagos Town Council in 1958 to form the Lagos Municipal Transport Service (LMTS). LMTS was changed to Lagos City Transport Service (LCTS) in 1962 when Lagos acquired the status of a city, and then into Lagos State Transport Corporation (LSTC) in 1967 when Lagos became a state. There were also unorganized operators using public transport vehicles, variously known as Bole Kaja, Jalekwe, and later Molue and Danfo buses. However, the inception of the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration at the start of this millennium was a watershed for the present and future development of public transportation in Lagos. Lamata was established by the Lagos State Government to implement the World Bank Assisted Lagos Urban Transport Project (LUTP), which has ushered an era of much-needed sector reforms that will lead to the establishment of an integrated multimodal public transport system in the near future. The current administration of Governor Babatunde Fashola San has demonstrated political championship in support of and in continuation of the reforms which began in 2000. The introduction of the bus rapid transit system in 2008 proved the viability of the Lagos transport system. Its viability has also resulted in the current efforts at extending the BRT to Ikorodu.
Welcome back. We now take you into the discussion segment. Residents in Lagos have come to appreciate the organized public transport system being implemented by the Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority (LAMATA). From making the declared road network motorable all year round to constructing and supervising the first successful bus rapid transit BRT system in sub-Saharan Africa, which has been extended to Ikorodu town, to the construction of the Blue Line Rail project, the outlook of the metropolis has indeed changed.
Our guest tonight is Dr. Dayo Mubiriola. He is the Managing Director, CEO of the Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority (LAMATA). He has supervised the maintenance of over 500 kilometers of roads, which has reduced travel time by 30% and pollution by 13%. He and his team are working on the delivery of the first phase of the rail line, which is called the Blue Line Rail Project, from Okokomaiko to Marina. Together, we shall be discussing how viable the Lagos transport sector is. You're welcome to the program, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, the Lagos transport sector has evolved for more than 100 years, and history has it that before the establishment of the commercial road transport services, Lagosians rode on Lagos Steam Tramway. Other transport operators also came and simply fizzled out of the system. Can you tell our viewers what happened during this period?
Well, like you rightly said, public transport started about 100 years ago in Lagos with the tramway. And then we moved on to road transport, which was led by Zappas, which was a Greek company that came to Lagos. And after that, it metamorphosized into Lagos City Transport Service, which actually provided about 267 buses. But along that, along with the Lagos City Transport Service were also other private companies like Elias Transport, Labour Union Transport Service, Oshinowo, and Benson. Those were the 4 companies that were actually licensed, along with the Lagos City Transport Service. And they were able to run all over Lagos. But on the side as well, we had the unregulated buses, which is the Kia bus. You probably would not know them.
No, I can't remember. Mr. Craig,
No, I do remember them. I am old enough to know.
Yeah.
Old school. Go ahead.
We had the Kia bus, and then we had Bole Kaja. Of course, you don't know that one as well. And all of these actually complemented the public transport service in Lagos, and they were running very well. And the problem then was that there were no coordination as well as no proper licensing authority to actually regulate this against these bus services then.
Okay.
Sir, one of the challenges of the Lagos transport sector was the multiplicity of agencies managing transport. What effect did this have on the development of the state transport sector?
It was a structural problem, actually, because 40 years ago we had the federal government in Lagos, we had the state government, we had the local government, all of them based in Lagos. If you remember, Lagos was still the capital of Nigeria. And as a result, Lagos, the federal government would license buses and transport system. Lagos State would do their own transport system, so is local government. So there was no cohesion, there was no programming, there was no coordination.
So what did Lamata do to tackle the challenges of this multiplicity?
Well, all of those responsibilities now came under one agency. There was a study that was done that said that there needs to have one holistic agency that deals with the issue of transportation in Lagos State, and that led to the creation and the establishment of Lamata. So all that role, in which about 100 agencies were dealing with at one point or the other, is now being melted, and now Lamata is the one actually doing all of that now.
Experience has shown that the private sector is shying away from investing in public transport. Why is this so?
To some extent, I may disagree with you slightly, in the sense that I mentioned to you that 40, 50 years ago, we had Oshinowo, we had Benson, we had the Liars, and even the first public transport, regulated public transport we had in Lagos was by Zapas. It was a private company. All right. So that tells you that historically we've had private sector involvement in public transport. And then what happened was the government took it over and they started running most of these things. But even at that, that's when we have the Lagos City Transport Service, and then we have Lagos Municipal Transport Service. But there was still opportunity for the private sector, and that opportunity was where the private sector did not take it on very well. We then had the Danfos, the Molwes, the Bolekajas, and all of these people coming in. And really, they are private companies, they are individuals, they are organized private sectors who had come in without the support of the government. And some of them are still running up till today.
No doubt we have established the fact that public-private partnership is key in this project, but we also want to look at the viability of the transportation in Lagos State.
Lagos public transport is actually one of the most profit-making industry. That I can tell you categorically. And I will give you 2 classic examples. The first one is that when we started the BRT, during the conceptualization, we actually said that it would take 3 years for the investor to repay back the cost of buying the buses, and then extra 1 year to actually make a profit. But would you believe that in 18 months, the operators were able to repay back And within that 18 months, they were able to make profit. And that is why they went on to buy extra 50 buses and then buy another extra 50 buses. And so far, they bought almost 250 buses in the space of 6 years.
Can I invest?
You can. 70% of people who are actually commuting in Lagos are using public transport. Okay. And therefore, there is demand for the public transport. And the third one is that the amount that is being used, that is being paid for this transportation, the fares, is actually above the norm, much more than what we would pay overseas. Okay. In relation to our income. We spend 40% of our income 40%. on public transport here in Nigeria, in Lagos, whereas overseas is just about 25%.
Okay. Now we would like to take some questions from our audience in regards to what we've been saying this far.
What is the future plan for BRT in Lagos?
Tola, the plan that we have for Lagos on BRT is, as you may be aware, presently the BRT is from mile 12 to CMS. We are now extending it by another 14 kilometers to Ikorodu town. That is just one trunk. We have also another 9 BRT that we planned for Lagos State. And this is just the BRT alone. We have rail system, we have water transportation system, and all of these are multi-dimensional approach to bringing public transport into the doorstep of every citizen of Lagos State.
If one of the solutions of the government in implementing the Blue Line Rail project is to solve the congestion problem in the transportation sector in Lagos, why has the private sector not come into this area?
What the state did was, first, the urban rail system, the Lagos urban rail system is first of its kind in Africa, right? That's the first one. And to do that, you need to put some things in place to ensure that you attract the private investors, and which is why the states have decided that we should put the infrastructures in place, which is why, through Lamata, the state government is actually building the rail tracks, the rail station, and then the investor would come, bring their trains, and bring the communication system, the depots, and put all of it together. In actual fact, when we opened the bids, when we went to tender, it was so unusual, which was actually recognized by our international consultant, that the response we got was actually much more than the response they've actually gotten anywhere in the world, because it shows that the interest of the private sector is there. We had on the Blue Line, we had about 14 very, very good response, which we now have to evaluate and come down to the preferred bidder. And this preferred bidder that we are talking to right now in order to negotiate and ensure that we can give them a very good and comfortable contract.
If I'm a prospective investor, how would you convince me to want to invest in the Lagos transport system?
I've given you a classic example where I said that the BRT that is running today, the operator, we sat down with them, we come up with a cash flow, and with the cash flow, we said they were going to repay the cost of getting the buses in 3 years, but it was repaid in 18 months, which is just about half of the time. So that tells you the enormity of the cash flow, of the money that is in the transport sector. So it's a lot of opportunities. And beyond actually running the system as well, there are side profitable businesses that can come into it. There is ticketing, there is maintenance, there is so many things that makes this business very viable.
Concerning the transport plan for Lagos, that's the future plan for Lagos, are we likely to see the tricycles phased out?
Well, Kelechugo, your question is very appropriate, but I have to tell you categorically that the state government does not have the intention of banning tricycles, which in other words called keke nape, keke marwa, or whatever. So it is there. It is going to be there. However, the state has the obligation and is fulfilling its obligation to provide more effective, efficient, safe, affordable means of public transport. And that is why we are going ahead with all these plans for the BRT, the rail transport, the water transport as well. And then that will give the commuters, the citizens, the choices, and then they will decide whether they want to use Keke Marwa, or they want to use rail, or they want to use BRT, or they want to use water transportation. So it is going to be their choice. But really, the good thing about all of these things is that the operators of those Keke Marwa and co would not lose out. They are the ones that would eventually go into these new schemes we're talking about and become operators. So there is no fear in terms of, oh, I'm going to lose my, if the state government provides or assists in providing a better means of public transport, we are going to lose out. No, they are just going to be retrained, and then they are going to migrate to become either bus drivers or bus operators or mechanics, organizers, providing services for this new, better system that will enhance the life of the people of Lagos.
Thank you, audience, for your questions. In conclusion, what are your parting words?
For the potential investors in transport sector in Lagos, I can assure you, and you can say that from what I've said, that the transport sector is a very profitable one. And from example, I can tell you that after Hong Kong, Lagos is the only city in the world where you can make money from transport sector and make it a sustainable, viable, lasting transport system in which you can even be a generational, transferable system over years. And we have tested it over years. We've done it for 40 years, and for the next 40 years, it's still going to be in existence, because commuting is one way that we cannot stop, and people will continue to move around, and they need transport to do it.
Thank you, sir, for sharing with us today.
My pleasure.
We'll be back after the break. You can connect with us by using the details now appearing on your screen. We would love to hear from you.
Every member of our audience goes home with a loaded Lagos Connect card. Till next week.
Lamata.
Lagos, my home. With Lamata, Lagos is changing for the best. BRT lanes, modern rail.